Good afternoon. Happy day after Christmas. I'm Brian Manning. This is the Asylum Answer Show where I'm going to answer your questions about winning asylum in the United States. Hope you guys are doing well. I know it's been a while since we've been on to have this Q&A, this show, but I'm back, well rested after some time off. Hope that you've had lovely holidays. For those who celebrated a lovely Christmas, and if not, just a lovely holiday season. And I look forward to getting back into this with you and with our clients and with this community of asylum seekers and working together to help people secure their future in America through asylum. Hello on YouTube, Dushan Thirajapaksa. TikTok, how are you? We got Migalo says, hi, boss. Hey, how are you? Focus only. Good to see you on TikTok. Amilcar Cabral, thanks for being with us. Debbie256, hello. Rufat Ganbarov, hello. Pope, good to see you. Thanks for being with us. Yeah, we're live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. This is the Asylum Answer Show. And my name is Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers. And look, I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as an asylum lawyer, well, my law firm, we help immigrants all over the country, to secure their future in America through asylum. And I want to answer your questions today about winning asylum in the United States. But first, actually, before you leave your questions in the comments, say hello. Say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to see where you guys are at. So just drop me in the comments. Say hi. Say where you're watching from. Merry Christmas, sir, says Albina. Muhimbo, good to see you, Albina. Thanks for being on. Merry Christmas to you too. I hope you had a great Christmas. Hello. Good afternoon. For those of you just joined, I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer. Now I'm an asylum lawyer. And my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. And I want to know what questions you have about asylum. Say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, and then leave your questions. Debbie, we got Debbie watching from Germany. Okay, nice. Pel du Wasolu says, hey, from Washington State. Nice. I like Washington. Beautiful state up there. Megalo says Virginia. Nice. Rufat Ganbarov. Rufat, where are you from with that name? It sounds like Central Asia to me. Where are you from? I'm curious. If you don't mind sharing on social media. Risk, good to see you. Satinder Paul, Bose, Apakabar, Jeff 18. Hello. Welcome. Glad you're with us. Azerbaijan. Okay, not. I was a little bit off. Watching from the Netherlands. Okay, nice. Well, look, thanks for being here. And why don't you start leaving your questions in the comments? What do you want to know about winning asylum in the United States? David Beck says, hello, Brian from Georgia. Nice. I was in Tennessee a couple of days ago, or a few days ago, kind of close to Georgia, but not quite. Owner says from Turkey. Nice. We got Kong KGG says, hello, New York. Nice. Hello from Houston, says Alexandra Con. Nice. H-Town. Love it. All right. All right. Look, I'm gonna answer your questions. Start leaving your questions in the comments, guys. But first, I want to say a couple words about where things stand with affirmative asylum cases. As you might know, in late November, USCIS announced a new policy suspending issuance of decisions or pausing decisions in affirmative asylum cases. This does not apply to defensive cases. In cases in immigration court, we're still getting decisions like normal. This pause only refers to or only applies to cases with USCIS, affirmative asylum cases, okay? And I want to be crystal clear about this. It's not a pause of the case overall. They're just saying they're not going to actually give you a decision right now. To be clear, USCIS is still accepting applications. We're still helping people apply like every day. People are still, USCIS is still doing biometrics appointments for asylum applicants. USCIS is still issuing and carrying out interviews for asylum cases. It's just after the interview, the officer writes up their decision. They do their research, they write their decision, their supervisor has to approve it, sign off on it. That's where the case gets frozen. They're just not going to go in the system and click submit to finalize the case and create the letter that is your decision and enter the decision formally into the system. I think they're going to do everything up until actually hitting submit. And then once the pause finally gets lifted, then they'll just go back in for all these cases and hit submit to finalize the decision. Okay. It still makes sense to move your case forward. If you've not yet applied for asylum and you think you want to apply, this pause should not keep you from applying. You should still apply. Okay. They're still accepting applications. Okay. If you applied for asylum several years ago and you haven't gotten your interview yet, then you should consider suing in a mandamus lawsuit to get your interview, because they're still doing interviews, and we have gotten interviews scheduled through mandamus even after this pause went into effect during the pause. Okay. We don't know whether they're going to issue decisions in those mandamus cases while the pause is in effect. We have a bunch of lawsuits pending right now, and we're going to make these arguments. We think there's pretty good arguments to be made about why USCIS should give our client their decision, even though there's a pause on decisions. We think that USCIS is legally obligated to do so, and we're going to make that argument to the judges. And hopefully in a few weeks, we will have an answer about whether the judges agree with us or not. What I'm saying is, you might be able to get your decision now, even though there's a pause on decisions. You might be able to do this through a mandamus lawsuit. We're going to see. But at a minimum, the mandamus lawsuit can still help you to get the interview done now, to get the interview scheduled and done. And there is value in that. The sooner you get your interview, the better your chances for success. I've been saying this for, 2 years since we started doing mandamus. Well, I've always thought that, but I've been saying it a lot since we started doing mandamus lawsuits a couple of years ago. And it's still true today, even during this pause. The sooner you get your interview, I truly believe the better your chances for success. And I believe this based on my experience of 11 years working for the government's two main agencies for asylum and refugee matters, and my experience, as the owner of a law firm that focuses on asylum all day, every day for 6 years. We're about to turn 6 years old in a few weeks. Our law firm is. Okay, look, the point is, the bottom line, the takeaway is this. It still makes sense to apply for asylum. It still makes sense to bring a mandamus lawsuit to push your stalled asylum case forward, despite that there is a pause on the issuance of decisions right now by USCIS. Okay. That is, that's what I wanted to say. Let's go to the questions. What questions do you have specifically about winning asylum in the United States? All right. Dushanthira asked about this. I'm going to go ahead and address this because it's a little bit different. Well, it gets at what I just discussed, but I wanted to address it specifically. This version of it specifically, and the question is this: is USCIS doing interviews right now for asylum, or are cases still paused? Is there any possibility of getting called for an asylum interview in 2026? Good news. Yes, USCIS is doing interviews. The pause only applies to decisions. They're still doing everything else. They're accepting applications. They're doing biometrics appointments. They're doing interviews, and officers are preparing the decision. They're just not going into the computer and hitting submit to finalize the decision. Yes, they're still doing everything else. We're doing everything at our law firm normal. We're doing the same work for our clients that we always do every day. And it still makes sense to move your case forward. If you haven't yet applied, but you think you want to apply, yes, you can apply, and you should apply despite the decision pause. If you've been waiting for several years for an interview, you should talk to an asylum lawyer about bringing a mandamus lawsuit to force your interview despite the pause. The sooner you get your interview, I believe, the better your chances for success. So yes, keep working, keep improving your case, building your case, move your asylum case forward. All right. All right. The soon-to-be free says, "Hey Brian, a Senegalese man I've known for about 5 months is here seeking asylum. He arrived a few years ago and fled from Senegal to avoid social assumptions that created a threat to himself and family. Where's your question? This soon to be free. I don't know. Did you leave a question? I didn't see if you left a question. Okay, there, I found it. He has had many personal problems while living in Ohio, which have interfered with being progressive in his asylum request. He is losing belief and feeling safe here. Yep, I get that. He applied for asylum almost 2 years ago. He's waiting a Cleveland judge. The last 2 months, he's lost work and is struggling to continue his retainment of his attorney. The soon to be free, I don't see your question though. There's a lot of comments in here, so it's hard kind of to find when they're broken up with comments interspersed between them. Look, I'm sorry your friend's in this difficult position. Let me address it like this. This might get at what you're asking about. So the question is this: can you do anything to move your asylum case forward in immigration court? Look, I talk all the time about using a mandamus lawsuit to force a decision in your asylum case with USCIS, in an affirmative asylum case, right? But in court, it's a little bit different. We don't do mandamus lawsuits in court. So what can you do in court to move things forward faster? Well, one of the things that we normally do with our clients is we skip the first hearing. We don't no show it. We get it canceled. We ask the judge to cancel it and to skip straight to the main hearing, what's called the individual hearing. We do this by doing on paper what would normally be done in person on the day of a master calendar hearing. Okay. And we submit this in writing. They're called written pleadings. And we submit also a motion that says, look, judge, we already did everything on paper. There's no need to come in for the master calendar hearing. Could you please just cancel that and go ahead and schedule the individual hearing? And usually, almost always, the judges say yes. And so this is a way to basically cut it down. Instead of having to do 2 hearings, you only have to do 1. And that moves things up usually very, very, very significantly. So that's one way that we can move it forward. Sometimes you can get the judge to schedule the individual hearing even sooner than they otherwise would, based on like urgent humanitarian concerns. It's hard to do that. It rarely works, but every once in a while it does. So look, but the first thing I talked about, the getting the master calendar hearing canceled, that's something that there's a very, 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 very high chance for success with that we usually do and achieve for our clients. Okay. All right. Nice. Thank you. Good to see you here. All right. It's me. Z says someone's USCIS case status says next step is an interview. When can they expect to be scheduled? It got updated on the 17th of December. Let me address it like this. When are you going to get your asylum interview with USCIS? If you see in your My USCIS case status update screen that it has changed and it says that the next step is an interview. Unfortunately, this doesn't really tell us anything. These updates, the case status updates in My USCIS are wrong very, very, very frequently. They're so wrong so often that you really can't place any stock in them, okay? I know that's disappointing. I know you want to be able to count on what you're seeing in there as an update, but you just can't. We see them be incorrect probably as much as they are correct, okay? So you just can't go by it really at all. Okay? Murad says, how to make sure to not get denied asylum. Denied in how to make sure not to get denied in asylum office is so important. Yep. The question is this: what do you need to do to win your asylum case in 2026? Look, it's getting harder than ever. That's the reality, okay? Approval rates have dropped significantly under the Trump administration, and I expect them to keep dropping more and more. But I want to be clear, it is still possible to win asylum. We've kept winning under Trump. We're going to keep winning under Trump. But you got to do a good job. You got to have good materials. Okay. You got to fill out the application. You should fill out the application well. Have good supporting documents in the way of evidence. Ideally, have a very strong declaration that you write with the help of an asylum lawyer, and have a lawyer write a legal brief for you that connects all the dots and makes the arguments. But look, all that stuff that I just mentioned is good and helpful, but it's not near as important as this one thing: practice. Okay. Practice and preparation for your testimony on the day of your asylum interview. That is the most important thing by far. We do this preparation for an asylum interview with our clients through a full-scale mock interview, a practice interview. Okay. We do a full-scale practice interview from beginning to end. And then a day or two or three later, we do a debrief session where we give feedback and all of our best tips. That right there, that's the best thing you can possibly do to maximize your chances for asylum success. And actually, as of recently, we've been offering this asylum interview preparation service as a standalone service. So not just for our clients that have hired us for attorney representation, but also for people that maybe they don't have the funds to hire us for like full scale representation, or we don't have time to do it. Like if their interview's coming up very soon, we can offer this most important aspect of preparation all on its own for at a much lower cost, and we can do it quickly. Okay. If you want to learn about this, schedule an appointment so we can talk and see whether you qualify for it. Okay. Go to winasylum.com to schedule your appointment now. It's WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com to schedule a consultation so we can talk through this. We want to talk. Okay. Okay. I got a question. I contacted your firm, but I wasn't able to get through to you. If I request you and not another lawyer, how can I do that? Good question. The question is this. So if you call my law firm to try to set up a consultation, are you going to talk with me? And then if you hire us, am I going to be your lawyer personally, me? No to both of them. I don't really do consultations like at all anymore. I just don't. We have asylum professionals that are highly trained. They're good at this. I think they're experts at getting to know you and your situation in a way that helps us understand whether we can help you, and they're really good at explaining how. If we think we can help you, they're good at explaining to you exactly what the concrete steps are going to be. And then when it comes to people who've already hired us, I don't do much individual casework. I set the strategy overall for the law firm about here's how we handle cases at Political Asylum Lawyers. Here's our theories, or here's the way that we build a case. Okay. But if you hire us, you should not expect to be like emailing or calling or doing a video conference with me, or to have me be the guy who's there preparing you for your interview or there at your interview. I have a great team who I think is better at most of those things than me. I like to think that I'm really good when it comes to like the strategy and drawing on my experience as a former asylum officer about how to build a case. But I teach that to my team, to my attorneys, and then they run with it. And I think they're better than me when it comes to actually preparing you for your interview and then advocating for you on the day of your interview. My team is better than me. I purposely hire people for that reason. I find people who are better than me at those aspects and hire them to do that for our team. And that's what you should expect. Okay. Albina says, now that immigration's on pause, can we file a mandamus to force a decision? If so, do you think that could lead to a negative decision? Good question. The question is this. So now that asylum decisions are paused at USCIS, what effect will a mandamus lawsuit have if your case is stalled? Look, it can still work to get the interview scheduled. We know this because we've gotten it done. We've had several interviews scheduled through mandamus, despite the pause, okay? It's a closer question, one that we don't know the answer to yet, of whether we can use mandamus to get a decision during the pause. We think there's good legal arguments to be made about why to say, yes, the government has to give you the decision, not just the interview, but also the decision, even though there's a pause. We're going to find out the answer to that soon because we've got a bunch of cases pending. And so we're making this argument to judges, and we'll see, hopefully in the coming weeks, whether the judges agree with us or not. Okay. Will it lead to a negative decision? No, I do not. In your underlying asylum case, no, I do not think it will hurt your negative, or I don't think it will impact your asylum case in any way, positively or negatively, except that the sooner you get your interview, the better your chances for success. That's why we do mandamus. That's the point of mandamus, is that it helps you win your underlying asylum case by getting you your interview sooner, and so you don't have to wait for years more when it's going to be much harder to win with more time that has passed. David says, do you represent clients in different states? Good question. The question is this. So where can my law firm help you? Do we help clients in other states? So look, we're based in Houston, Texas, but it doesn't matter because we help clients all over the country. Okay. We have, of course, a lot of clients in Texas where we're based, but we have tons of clients in California, New York, Florida, around Chicago, Atlanta, up in Denver, all over. Okay. We help clients all over the country. Okay. And we develop cases and we prepare you and we represent you just the same, no matter where you are. It's not like people in Texas don't have any kind of benefit or get any kind of special or different treatment at all in how we handle their cases or how we treat them just because they're in Texas. No, it's the same. Our framework, our methodology for how to build and present a case and prepare you for it is the same no matter where you are. So yes, we help people all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Okay. Where do CBP officers conduct a credible fear interview? When they catch me anywhere at the border, or when I go to a POA to apply for asylum, or both? The question is, good question. The question is this: how do credible fear interviews work? Like, who actually performs them, and when and where would you be during one? Look, the most common, well, first of all, they're performed by USCIS asylum officers, not CBP, not Border Patrol. It's USCIS asylum officers that do credible fear interviews. I think I did thousands of these. I know I did hundreds. I think I did thousands of these when I was an asylum officer. Usually they're done by telephone with the person, the applicant. You are detained. Usually it's you're detained and you have a phone call with an asylum officer to do the credible fear interview. That's usually what it is. Sometimes, though, for various reasons, you might be let go. You might be released into the country and then have a credible fear interview. In that case, you would go into the asylum office with jurisdiction over that case and have an in-person credible fear interview with an asylum officer at an asylum office. Jesus wants to know, hey, Brian, do you go to San Antonio court or do you do the trial online? Oh, we go there pretty frequently. In most cases, we ask the judge if the individual here, well, both hearings can be done online for video conference. We think it's better for our clients to do it virtually, even in Houston, where we're based. But sometimes the judge says no, or if we don't ask for it, then yeah, we would go to San Antonio. No problem. We send lawyers there frequently. Not a problem. We've had a lot of success in San Antonio. You're lucky. San Antonio is a little bit easier place to win than other courts in Texas, especially Houston and Dallas. All right. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Nick Yaroval says, there are a lot of posts on Reddit right now of people getting their decisions after USCIS interviews. Really? I haven't seen that. Can you post a link on here, Nick Yarovoy? Post a link on here, or tell me what to search for on Reddit so I can go find it. I haven't seen that. I haven't heard that. Will it be more difficult for Colombians? What do you mean? Then more difficult compared to what, Jay? Let me know what you mean by that. All right. Uh, all right. Oh, this is okay. Yeah, we got Yi Li Ong on YouTube who says, "Hey Brian, good afternoon. My interview was done through Mandamus lawsuit with your law firm with us last October. Still waiting for the decision. I'm included in one of the 19 banned countries. I feel concerned about it. Thank you very much for helping the interview. Thanks for helping me to get the interview after waiting many years." You're welcome. You're welcome, Yelin. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting to get the decision despite the pause on decisions right now. And as I said, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but I think that there's a decent chance. I think there's a chance we might win this argument with the judge to say, look, the law says USCIS has to act in a reasonable time, and the law trumps or outweighs this or wins over this policy of saying, oh no, we're going to make a pause to conduct better vetting. So we're going to make that argument and we're going to see what happens. So I'm still fairly hopeful that we can force the decision even though there's a pause. Okay. All right. Ethio Entertainment says, I'm from Ethiopia and my asylum application is pending at USCIS for 2 years. What can I do? Good question. The question is this. What can you do if your asylum application has been pending with the asylum office for let's say a couple of years, but not a bunch of years, just like 2? What can you do if you want to make progress in your case? You want to move your case forward? Look, in my opinion, you're probably not ripe yet to file a mandamus lawsuit. At my law firm right now, our policy is 5 years waiting. When someone's been waiting 5 years for their interview, we think they're in a good position to have success with a mandamus lawsuit, suing the government to force the interview. So we'll do that at 5 years. But if it's under 5 years and you still want to do something, right? Do an asylum roadmap. This is what people hire us to help with the paperwork, right? Even though they already applied, there's a lot that we can do to improve your case on paper, okay? We do what's called an asylum roadmap. We call it this because it's like a map in the sense that it shows the asylum officer how to get to the answer yes in your case in the easiest way possible. It consists of 3 elements: a declaration that we're going to work on together, evidence that we're going to make a list of things we want you to try to get, and we're going to decide with you strategically which ones to actually use, and then a legal brief by my team where we connect all the dots in a legal brief and we make the legal arguments and we show the officer how you meet all the requirements for asylum. And we compile this and we send it in. And this is something that we can do at any point, even though we're not yet filing a mandamus lawsuit for you. We can do that now. So we have all this on the record in case you get your interview just by chance out of the blue, or once it's time to do mandamus and we get the interview very quickly, we will have done all the paperwork and we won't be stressed at the last minute of like, oh my gosh, I got the interview. Because what happens is sometimes people get the interview and they're like, oh, wait a second, but I meant to do more. I meant to provide more evidence. I meant to get a lawyer to help me with this supporting documents piece, but it's too late. Or they're very rushed and they can't do a good job because there's not enough time. Well, we can do all that now. People hire us now in your position who've been, had the case pending for 2 years. What they hire us for right now is to do the asylum roadmap. That's what we can do. If you want to learn about that, go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation. Okay. WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com to schedule a consultation. Okay. Alexandra says, do you provide workshops for other attorneys? I mean, not really. No. I mean, I've done some CLE talks and stuff, but no, I don't really do I don't really offer I don't offer a attorney, sort of consulting, unfortunately. All right. Alex Dronov says, hey, dear lawyer, do you know anything about the lawsuit being filed by lawyer Jim? A little bit. Look, that's Jim Hacking. He's one of my friends. Very good law firm. We refer cases to him a lot for case types that we don't handle because we just do asylum and green cards for asylees only. But for marriage-based cases and other types of cases, sometimes we send them to Jim. He's my friend, Jim Hacking I'm talking about. His law firm is called Hacking Immigration Law. They're good. And he's putting together a class action lawsuit to challenge these new policies around the asylum decision pause, and another one that says that the USCIS is not going to process cases for people from these certain countries. at all, including like green card and naturalization cases. Uh, I don't know. I think it might be too late to sign up for his class action lawsuit, but I'm not sure. Um, if you can sign up for it, great. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to do so. I recommend it. There's a chance it could work, and I trust him and his team to do a good job and to treat you well. So sure, yeah, Jim's great. Uh, how long does it usually take for a rescheduled interview to get scheduled or rescheduled? Usually it's fast. Good question. The question is this: how long is it going to take to get your interview rescheduled with USCIS? So if you missed the interview and then you ask for them to reschedule it, or they canceled it ahead of time and said, oh, we're going to have to cancel, but we're going to reschedule, we'll let you know later what the new date is. How long is it going to take before you finally get that interview? Usually it's fast, is the good news, right? Usually it's like a month or two after the original date that you actually have the interview. Sometimes, though, these cases fall through the cracks and it can take much longer. Sometimes it could take several months or even longer. Okay. But usually it is fast. Those are actually like top priority in terms of the scheduling priorities for interviews. Um, yeah, those are top priority reschedules. So usually they get done quickly. Okay. Okay. Dougie says the decisions on Reddit are before the pause. Okay. Well, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, decisions were definitely happening before the pause. We were getting them. It seemed like every day we were getting a new asylum approval. Okay, for our clients. Um, okay, Mahmoud El Hassan says currently J1, but want to apply for asylum because my country is not safe for me. Do you have a question about that? I mean, look, maybe one way to frame it, the question is this: can you go from being a student on like F1 or J1 status to apply for asylum? Is that possible? And the answer is yeah, definitely. We have a lot of clients who are in F1 or J1 status and they apply for asylum. You actually have a benefit that a lot of people don't have in that people that have this status sometimes have long-term status, right? You could be on an F1 or even a J1 for years, and you could then apply for asylum outside of your first year in the United States, and you would get around the 1 year filing deadline if you had maintained your status, that F1 or J1, and not violated it. And as long as you apply for asylum while you still have that status or within a reasonable time after losing it, then you can establish an exception to the 1 year filing deadline they call this maintenance of status exception. It falls under the extraordinary circumstances category of exceptions. So, but look, short answer is yeah, it's common for people to go from F1 or J1 to apply for asylum and even win asylum. So yeah. Okay. We should talk. Mahmoudul, if you have any specific questions about it, let me know in the chat. But if not, look, you should schedule a consultation. Go to winasylum.com. I just checked our calendar, and we're closed. Our office is closed next week, so we don't have availability next week. But the next week, starting January 5th, we do still have a few open slots for consultations, but those are going to fill up quickly. Okay. And one of the reasons that they're going to fill up quickly is because we're offering a special promotion in January. This promotion is for our Mandamus service. I've been talking a lot about this today, right? About suing the government to move your stalled asylum case forward. We really want to help as many people do this, especially during this challenging time. So we're offering a promotion for people that hire us for this service in the month of January. We're offering a discount only for people who hire us in January. Okay. And it's $500 off of our Mandamus service if you hire us just for Mandamus. But if you hire us for Mandamus plus representation in your underlying asylum case, then we're going to give you $1,000 discount, $1,000 off of our normal fee. Okay. So it's a huge discount. If you want to hear about that and you want to see if we think we can help you, if you qualify for this, then schedule a consultation. You got to start with the consultation. All right. That's where it all starts. Go to winasylum.com to schedule this consultation. Look, we did this a promotion kind of like this over a year ago. And I'm going to tell you right now, the consultation spots filled up immediately when we announced it and we started talking about it. And tons of people hired us for this. Okay. So what I'm saying that now just to stress that if you think you might want to take advantage of this opportunity to get a big discount on our Mandamus service, then you should schedule a consultation right now because those consultation spots are going to fill up quickly. And you have to do a consultation in order to be able to hire us. We have to make sure you qualify for representation by us. And the discount, the promotion is only in the month of January. So if you think you might possibly want help, schedule that consultation now. Okay, go to winasylum.com. And look, even if you don't want Mandamus, but you want help with something else, like us, like if you haven't yet applied and you think you might want our help to apply, schedule the consultation now because the spots are going to fill up because of the Mandamus promotion. They're going to fill up quicker than usual. Or if your case has been pending for a couple of years and you don't yet qualify for our Mandamus representation because it hasn't been pending long enough, but you want to do something to move your case, to make progress in your case, and you might want to hire us for the ARM. That's our Asylum Roadmap. Okay, that's the documents. You should schedule the consultation now because, again, these slots are going to get filled up quickly because of this, more quickly than usual because of this Mandamus promotion. Okay, winasylum.com. Are you getting, Ellis says, are you getting success for releasing detainees on bond? We don't do detained cases at all. So we haven't tried that. So I don't know. Okay. Sidimed BTR says, are they issuing noids during the pause? Yes. Yes, they are. They're continuing to issue notice of intent to deny. But then they're just not going to make a final denial or grant of asylum decision until the pause is lifted. Okay. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Ken Charillo says, Ken, by the way, we have channels in Spanish. Ken, if you're Venezuelan and you want to learn about us or our services, on YouTube, search for Asilo Aprobado. Es el nombre del canal en YouTube, Asilo Aprobado. For Venezuelans that got here in March of 2023 and filed in a timely manner, is there still a chance to win asylum, or is it already negated from President Trump? Cancel TPS. Yeah, look, I think the best way to do this is like this. The question is this. So if you're from a country for which TPS, temporary protected status, has been canceled or looks like it's going to get canceled, and you applied for asylum, do you still have a chance to win asylum, or are they just going to deny asylum for all these countries where TPS is canceled? The good news is those are two totally separate things. Okay, the fact that TPS is canceled for, say, Venezuela is not going to affect the asylum case. It's just not something the asylum officers look at. They're not trained to like assess as a negative factor for your asylum case the fact that TPS for that country got canceled. No, don't worry about it. Okay. The bottom line is people from all of these countries that have had TPS canceled can still win asylum. They are winning asylum. We've had a lot of success, especially with Venezuelans. Ken, about half our clients are Venezuelans. We know these cases really well. We've had a lot of success, both at the asylum office and in immigration court. So we should talk. Go to winasylum.com and schedule a consultation. Or en español, puede hacerlo en asiloahora.com. Otra vez, asiloahora.com. Okay. All right. Real Love Wadih says, from Syria, 10 years in California, moved from Bahrain, interview was a failure, went to court, case dismissed. Now I have new case. What can I do? Do you mean you already applied? Do you mean you already applied? again a second time, but I'm not sure. I can't tell from your question if you already applied or not. But let me address this because a lot of people have this question. The question is this: what can you do if your asylum case was dismissed from immigration court, but you still want asylum? Look, a lot of people had cases dismissed from immigration court over their objection. They wanted to keep pursuing their claim, but the judge said, nope, the government, DHS, ICE wants to dismiss it, so we're going to dismiss it. And then it went away. The judge dismissed it. Or maybe you agreed or wanted to have it dismissed and that happened, but now you're like, no, I still want asylum. What can you do? In any case, if your case was dismissed from immigration court, you can apply again. You can apply with USCIS, okay? And the good news is they've said that in these cases where this has happened, they're going to use your original filing date from your first application. They're going to use that date for purposes of assessing the 1-year filing deadline, which is good news. That helps your case, okay? What happens next, like in terms of where your case will be considered, USCIS versus the immigration court, depends on whether you've previously had an asylum interview with USCIS. If you previously had an asylum interview with USCIS, then your case went to court and was dismissed from court, and now you're applying again with USCIS, USCIS is going to accept the application, but they're going to transfer it directly to immigration court, putting you back in deportation proceedings. But you get a chance to explain and fight your case in immigration court. If you never had a case with USCIS, but rather your case was straight to immigration court and then it's dismissed, and now you apply again with USCIS, then in this circumstance, USCIS is going to do an interview with you, an affirmative asylum interview. That's how it works. We should talk about applying again. If you think you might want to apply again, you should talk with an asylum lawyer about this. You can schedule a consultation with us to do this at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Okay, Osmodich asks, how long does the lawyer need to submit a supplemental filing? My interview is in a month. Osmodich, I don't remember exactly what our cutoff is. It's something it's right around a month, okay? It's right around a month. If you do your consultation with us next week when our office is open again, when we're doing consultations again, sorry, not this coming week, but the week beginning January 5th. It'll be less than a month, right? Until your interview. And then we will not have time. I can tell you we will not have time to do the supplemental filing. But here's the thing. And look, this raises a good question. And the question is this. So what happens if you get your interview notice and you don't have a lawyer, but you want help, and you reach out to lawyers and they all tell you, oh, your interview is coming up in like 10 days or 2 weeks. Sorry, don't have time to help you. Because look, that's what we used to say to people when people called us and they would say, Brian, my interview's in 8 days. Can you help me, please? I'd say, sorry, we don't have time. We don't have time to do the declaration, the evidence, the legal brief, country conditions research. We don't have time for that. Sorry. And we would just turn them away. But we changed our policy. Now, we're able to help people on very short notice. We still don't have time to do all the documents, but what we can do is the most important thing, preparation for your interview. Look, we now offer as a standalone service, interview preparation. And thankfully for you, that's the most important part of the whole case. The practice that you do for your interview, how you prepare for it, is much more important than your application, than your declaration, than your evidence. It's more important than a legal brief. It's more important than having a lawyer represent you during your interview. The preparation is the most important part of your case. And we can do that on short notice, okay? We can do that on short notice and for a fraction of the cost of what it would normally cost to hire us for like full-scale representation, okay? We have a special program for this. It's called the Mock Asylum Interview Experience, okay? And you can learn about it here at asylumprep.com is a special webpage where I've got a special training. And if you watch that training to the end, you're going to find information about this special service, okay, about this, what we call the Mock Asylum Interview Experience. Go to asylumprep.com, sign up for the training, do the training, and you'll learn all about how I think we can help you, okay? Or if you want to just get this settled quicker, go schedule a consultation right now at winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. Okay? All right. Luande Medeiros says, is it possible to win asylum if I entered on a visa when I was around 17 years old, applied for asylum in 2024, after 18 years, any chance to win? It's going to be difficult, but look, it's going to be difficult, but um, you might, let me address it like this. The question is this: is it possible to win asylum after you applied, after having already been here in the United States for many years, like 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah, it's possible. It's really hard, but it's possible, because we're talking here about the stumbling block, the problem of the 1 year filing deadline, right? The law says that to win asylum, you need to apply during your first year in the United States. If you don't do that, you'll be denied unless you qualify for an exception. There's two categories of exceptions, but this is complicated. This is a complicated area of the law. And it's going to take a lot to make a convincing argument that you qualify for one of the categories of exceptions. We help people do this. Look, it's not impossible. People do qualify for these exceptions frequently, okay? It's tough, though. It's tough. You definitely should talk with an asylum lawyer about this issue, okay? And we can talk with you if you want at winasylum.com is where you would go to schedule the consultation, WINASYLUM.com. Okay. Oh, Asmodi says, I've been waiting for 9 years. I'm terrified. That's understandable. That's normal. But Asmodi, do you know what's going to make you feel better? Practice. Okay. Look, let me address it like this. The question that this raises, the question is this. So what can you do to calm your nerves? Look, before your assignment, a lot of people are very anxious. They're very stressed out and very nervous when they get that interview notice that says, hey, you need to come to the asylum office in 8 days, 10 days, whatever, 2 weeks, 1 month for your interview. They get stressed out. Okay. This is normal. It's natural, because this is a big deal. The stakes are incredibly high. What can you do to calm things down so you're not freaked out, so that you're not overwhelmed and stressed out on the day of your interview? Practice. Okay. Look, when you feel like you've seen something before, and more importantly, when you feel like you've done something before, when you've practiced something, you get more comfortable. You feel peace, you feel calm, you feel at ease if you feel like you've done something before. This is what we give to people through our mock asylum interview experience. This is a service that we provide where we help you prepare for the interview. And the key to this, the most important aspect, is the mock interview. You're going to do a full-scale practice interview with us. And then after that full-scale practice interview, a day or two later, we're going to do a debrief session where we go back and give you feedback about how you did and tips for how you can do better. And look, with this experience, you feel like you've been there and done that. You go into the real interview with confidence, with peace of mind. You feel like you've been there and you've done that. You know what to expect. You know what kind of questions to expect. You know how it feels to be in this position, in this situation. You know what the different procedures are for the day. All of this is going to give you confidence and peace of mind, okay? It's a full-scale mock interview that is the key to maximizing your chances for asylum success. If you want to learn about this, we can talk about it in a consultation. We'd have to see if you qualify. Not everyone qualifies. You can go to winasylum.com to schedule your consultation if you're interested. Go to WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Osmodi, I'm going to check you. Please do this, okay? Look, you've been waiting a long time for this interview, and you said you're terrified because it's coming up now soon. You're exactly the kind of person who can benefit from this massively, okay? We should talk. I'm going to check our calendar after this live. I'm going to get off and I'm going to go check our calendar, and I hope that I see you on there, okay? On our calendar to do a consultation, okay? Please. I think we can help you improve your chances for success significantly through our interview preparation service that we call the mock asylum interview experience, okay? All right. Nice. Is it reasonable to file a Mandamus lawsuit regarding I-485 forms? I've been waiting for 24 months. Yes. Yes. Quite simply, yes. I think there's a good chance you can win with that. All right. Nono La Nona says, does the U.S. government investigate whether you've been persecuted in your home country, or do they only assess credibility? Good question. The question is this. So how does USCIS know whether you've actually been persecuted in your home country? How do they know whether the things you're saying are true? Like, do they actually go investigate? Do they call people? Do they send someone from the U.S. Embassy out to interview potential witnesses or people? Do they really look into it? Or do they just take what you say at face value in your interview? Well, the answer is that in very rare cases, they will do some investigating, but that's extremely rare. In 99 point, I don't know, 85% of the cases, they go just based off of your credibility assessment based on what you say at the interview, and whether there are inconsistencies or other problems that cast doubt on your credibility. I mean, look, they do have access to some information about you that they're using in assessing whether you're lying or not. But normally, the short answer is normally they do not do any kind of investigations in your country about whether the things that you've said really happened. But look, honesty is the best policy. Okay, I encourage you and I urge you to be completely honest and open and transparent. Honesty is the best policy, both just because, in my opinion, I believe personally it's the right thing to do, but also strategically, I think it's the smart thing to do for your asylum case. So be honest, okay? Nice. Nice. Osmodi, yeah, okay, nice. Osmodi said you called. The office is closed. They said they'd call me back. Yeah, yeah, we're closed. We're closed until January 5th. It's a long time. I know my staff works really hard. Um, it's a stressful job, right? We're dealing with sensitive, important cases. The stakes are high. There's a lot of trauma that we're people dealing with traumatic experiences that we're trying to support, and this is hard. I'm giving my team I think a well-deserved, well-earned rest for the holiday break. So we're off until January 5th. So don't call us. Go here to schedule the consultation, Osmodi, for this next week, okay? Go to winasylum.com to schedule the consultation. WINASYLUM.com. Winasylum.com. Yeah, guys, look, if you call for the next week, you're going to get an answering machine because we're off for today and all of next week. So we don't come back to the office till January 5th. But you can still schedule your consultation at winasylum.com. 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 Okay? Winasylum.com. All right. Nice. Very, very nice. Some good questions today. Some interesting questions. Love seeing that. Yep. Nice. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I know. Totally. Good to see you as well, Jorge, Jonathan. Nice. All right. Let's see. Is there anyone else I can take with me to the interview? I heard going alone is a bad idea. Interesting question. The question is this: can you take someone who's not a lawyer with you to your asylum interview with USCIS? Look, sometimes people, you might not have a lawyer, or you might have a lawyer, but you also want someone else to be in the interview room with you who's kind of like emotional support, whether that's a family member, friend, whoever, because they make you feel comfortable and safe. Unfortunately, the answer is no. No. The only people that USCIS will allow in the room are if you have an attorney there with you, they'll allow the attorney to be in there. And if you have an interpreter, they'll allow the interpreter to be in there with you. So, if that person that you trust and is your emotional support is your interpreter, then cool, they can be in there with you. But no, you can't just bring someone else in, unfortunately. they kind of lock these things down and they keep it tight. And unfortunately, no, you cannot bring in someone as kind of like a support resource or just to have in the room. Only people that can be in the room are your attorney and your interpreter. Okay. All right. Yeah. Look, for people out there, I know, actually, let me ask you this, guys, for all of you guys, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, I'm curious, who has an interview scheduled right now? Like already has the interview scheduled. Osmodi says their interview's coming up in like a month. Anybody else? Let me know in the chat. Let me know. If you have your interview scheduled, let me know what month it is and what asylum office. If you've already got your interview scheduled, I'm curious to know what asylum office and when it is, like the month, or you can tell me the exact date if you want. All right? I'm curious to hear. Okay? Nice. All right. Okay. What do we got? Tell me, YouTube, tell me, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. When do you have, who has an interview scheduled? When is it and what asylum office? Osmodi has coming up. Osmodi, where is your asylum interview? What asylum office is it at? Not that it matters all that much. I'm just curious. Nice. Nice. Okay. 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 January 27th in Los Angeles, Osmodi. Nice. Yep. We help a lot of people in Los Angeles. We know that office pretty well. We've had success there. Okay. We've got, okay, Luande Medeiros says mine will be in New York. Okay. When is it? Sorry if you already told us that. When in New York? When is that one? Look, New York is tough. New York is tough. Unfortunately, it has one of the lower approval rates in the country, but it's not impossible to win there. We've won cases there. We're going to keep winning cases there, but you got to do a great job. You got to be super prepared for your asylum interview. Okay. Preparation is the key. Preparation is more important than anything else by far. It's not even close. Look, there's this saying that they had, it's interesting. They had this saying both with visa officers and asylum officers. Do you guys know I used to be a visa officer? Before I was an asylum officer, I was a visa officer for a while when I was a diplomat with the State Department. And both places they say, look, we don't interview documents, we interview applicants. What that means is they don't really care that much. They don't really care that much about your documents. They care about what you say on the day of your interview. That's by far much more important than what your documents say. They don't really trust your documents. They think that they might be fake, made up, but they think that they can spot any lies or inconsistencies during your interview. And so if they go through your interview and it's good and clean and there's no inconsistencies, no problems, then they think, okay, I tested them. I got to probe them and test them in person in this interview. And they passed without problems, then they must be telling the truth. That's how they think. Okay. All right. If I apply now, when do you think they'll book my appointment in Chicago? Very soon, probably in the next few weeks, at least probably the next 2 or 3 months for sure. Good question. The question is this. So for people who are applying for asylum right now, when can they expect to have their interview with USCIS? Very, very soon. Look, everyone knows people in their community who've been waiting years for an asylum interview. So you may assume, okay, well, if I apply now, it's going to be a long time. I'm going to wait years, right, before the interview. Or maybe you heard that there's an asylum pause or an asylum ban right now. But that's not correct. There is a pause on the issuance of decisions, but interviews are going forward like normal. And the truth is, interviews are happening fast right now for the vast majority of asylum seekers. Most people who apply right now are getting their interview within just a few weeks, okay? We're talking like maybe on average a month and a half after applying. So you got to be ready to go. Once you file that application, I hope you have an asylum lawyer helping you with supporting documents, but most importantly, I hope you have an asylum lawyer helping you to prepare for that interview. The practice is the most important thing. The preparation for the interview, the practice you do for your testimony is the biggest part of your case, the most important aspect of your entire case. But yeah, these interviews are happening quickly for most people. Okay. Alexandru Koman. How about Houston? How low than New York? Mohammed. Yeah, Houston's low as well. We don't know exactly where the offices sit or what their approval rates are because USCIS has not released statistics on this in a long time, in like several years. But historically, Houston has been one of the lowest ones. Okay, lowest approval rates, unfortunately. That's where I worked. I was an officer at the Houston Asylum office. We know this office extremely well. I know the leadership. We know a lot of the supervisors. We have cases there very frequently, and it's hard. It's hard to win there, but it's not impossible. We've won a lot of cases there. We're going to keep winning cases there. All right. Keep up the faith. Maintain the faith. Stay strong. And be proactive and be ready to work hard to win your asylum case. All right. That's that. Yep. Very nice. Okay. Luande Medeiros says, okay, the interview's not been scheduled yet, but you're going to be in New York. Gotcha. All right. Nice. Nice. Gotcha. All right, guys, look, that's going to be it for today. If you think you might want help with your asylum case, go to winasylum.com. 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 That's where you would schedule a consultation, or what we call an asylum strategy session, where you're going to talk with one of our asylum professionals. Okay. And we want to get to know you. We want to understand your situation, tell you all about, what we think, whether we think that we can help you. All right. If we think that we're in a position to help you, we're going to explain how. Okay. We're going to explain exactly concretely what steps we would take to try to maximize your chances for asylum success, to give you the best possible chance of winning your case. We're going to talk through all of this in a consultation. We do this. This consultation is called an asylum strategy session, and you schedule it at winasylum.com. 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 Go there now and schedule this. We want to talk. All right. All right, guys. That's it. Thank you. Until next time, I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum officer turned asylum lawyer. So I used to be an asylum officer. Now I'm an asylum lawyer. And we help immigrants all over the country. Doesn't matter where you live. We help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Until next time, it truly is. Look, it's really a pleasure. It's an honor. It's an honor and a pleasure to support you in your asylum journey. Bye, guys. Take care. Have a good afternoon and a great evening and a great